Hello and welcome to the Blue Screen Comedy Club. It's a comedy club unlike other comedy clubs because this comedy club has no rules. Hang on, I'm being passed a... Oh, it turns out this comedy club has two rules. One, comedians cannot wear blue clothing. Not sure why. And two, comedians must be either cleanly shaven or have fully developed facial hair. Comedians cannot look like a waifu-chasing incel neckbeard. I liked it. I don't know. Okay, well, I guess please welcome our comedian James Hayward. I didn't know it did that. Anyway, I'm James Hayward, and I was watching the movie Vice the other day. I know this show keeps getting more and more relevant, socially relevant, timely relevant in many different ways. But I was watching the movie Vice, and I'm not sure if you know this, but Vice actually contains one of the most fascinating characters in theatrical history. Not Hamlet, not, I don't know, one of the people from Casablanca, but no, the movie Vice from last year. Let me just set the scene for you. It's not Dick Cheney or George Bush. It's a lawyer. There's a scene where Dick Cheney is meeting with some advisors and lawyers on how to properly ruin America, along with some other countries that people didn't care as much about back then. So they're going around the room introducing people, and this one character is introduced as a lawyer who has dedicated his entire professional career to expanding the executive power of the President of the United States. And to me, the mind of that man is just boggling. Because I have no idea what leads a man to dedicate his entire life to expanding the executive power of the President of the United States. I can only imagine him in middle school or high school history class, going through the Great Depression, World War II, learning about how FDR used executive power to create a New Deal and help us get out of the Depression. And then, we get to that really difficult page in the history book where the president used his executive power to round up all the people of Japanese descent in the United States, regardless of citizenship, and concentrate them into camps. They were called internment camps. Yes, that's the word. And I just imagine this lawyer getting to that very difficult page in the American history story and thinking to himself, yeah, that's pretty good, but I feel like the president needs more executive power than that. So then he goes to some Ivy League school to get a law degree, and he's classmates with Erin Brockovich and many other people trying to do good in the world. And I'm just picturing the law teacher, congressional law teacher, whatever teachers they have at law school, standing in front of the class and saying, all right, why do you want to be a lawyer? Well, I want to be a lawyer to help people get off death row, because I think it's immoral for a government to have the power to kill people. Yeah, and I'm going to law school to become a public defender, because I feel that poor people who can't afford a good lawyer should have just as good legal representation as those who can afford a lawyer. And I want to be a lawyer to expand the executive powers of the President of the United States of America. Not because I want to be the president, but because I feel like this country really would be better if we had a king. What? And so he goes through law school, all 4 years or 8 years. I'm not quite sure how many years degrees take anymore. And he gets to work. And he puts his nose down to expand the executive power of the President of the United States. And I'm just picturing him going home every night to his wife, who I imagine is a broad redhead, and she's laid out supper with a martini, and he sits down and she says, "Did you do it, Gavith? Did you expand the executive power of the President of the United States?" She's not from America, so her accent isn't very good. And he sits down, picks up his martini, or his... Well, now he has a Jägermeister. And he looks longingly at his food. I didn't get to expand the executive power of the President of the United States today, Dorothy. But I can feel it. I'm close. I'm real close. I just know that if I knuckle down and get to work and work harder, that soon, maybe 10 years or so, the president will have the executive power to gas peaceful protesters to make a propaganda video. I can feel it in my heart. Is that where the heart is? And that's all very interesting to think about, but the real question is, why? I'm an actor. I like to find motivations and thought processes of people when they do ridiculous stuff or dedicate their entire life to expanding the executive power of the President of the United States. So I was really actually struggling to figure out a logical reason as to why this man had dedicated his life to this pursuit. But then, the other night, I was sleeping on this, and it actually came to me. This man is a Republican. And then it all made sense, because you can give powers to Republicans, and they'll use it. They'll remove regulations until the globe is literally on fire all over, and then they'll remove even more regulations. They'll take us out of treaties. They'll go to war without running it by anybody, except for maybe an oil company or two. And if you're a Republican, that's all very appealing for some reason. But, I mean, if you're a Democrat, can any of you, in your memory, remember when a Democratic president used executive power for anything? Or a Democrat actually did anything? I mean, you may be thinking to yourself, gay marriage, that was... Obama did that, but no, it was the Supreme Court did that. Executive power had nothing to do with it. No, the only executive power that Obama used was to, well, bomb even more funerals and weddings using drones that really shouldn't be legal. I mean, I can guarantee you, right now, that Democrats are holding meetings with Republicans, probably over Zoom or something like that, and saying, Hey, so I don't know if you noticed, but people are actually pretty upset about police brutality and systemic racism in our law enforcement. So we decided to write some laws about it, because, you know, that's what we do. We have the House. we write the laws. Anyway, before this meeting, we did actually compromise with you. We didn't talk to you, but, you know, we imagined what you would probably say. So this is what we're presenting to you. All police must only use full metal jacket bullets, because, you know, they go right through, they're less deadly. And all police must read a pamphlet about racism. So if you could just read that over and vote for it, maybe. So really, when you think about it, dedicating your entire life's work to expanding the executive power of the President of the United States actually does make a little bit of sense. if you're a Republican. In fact, it makes a lot more sense than, say, for example, dedicating 4 years of your life and spending more money than you hopefully will ever spend on anything ever again, on a degree and a career that very rarely actually pays a living wage to its workers, and then graduating in the middle of a pandemic that completely halts your career, and making stupid videos on YouTube for all of 100 subscribers. Anyway, I'm James Hayward. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I guess the bell icon, I'm not quite sure. Thank you, good night.